Give me a full picture of you again.
All right, we are live. So we got May 15th. We're kind of doing this a little bit later in the night on Friday here. So we have a full debrief of what's been going on this week. But how are you today?
I had to start a little late tonight. It was like the most beautiful day in Minnesota ever today. 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. It might have been summer. It might have been, some will say the start of summer, but we in Minnesota might know that was summer. We never know. We have to appreciate every beautiful day because that may have been summer.
Were people out and about?
Things have markedly opened up more. Minnesota got extended from May 18th to June 1st. So restaurants, nothing like that, can start even going into 50% capacity till June 1st.
Okay.
Golf courses are open. You can play singles tennis. You can fish. The number of people on the roads has certainly increased. But Minnesota seems to be doing pretty good, I think, on trying to social distance and doing what they're supposed to do. We got an F somehow. I don't know who ranked Minnesota as an F, but I'll tell you in Rochester, Minnesota, we're not an F. Everyone's doing a pretty good job of social distancing. How about in California?
Like the news was saying we got an F in Minnesota?
Yeah, in the state papers, they gave Minnesota an F for social distancing. Maybe in Minneapolis, certainly not. Here's my daily contacts. Duluth, Ely, Park Rapids, that swoops across the top. Then I go down to Alexandria. Then I go to Montevideo, Worthington, Albert Lee, Red Wing, couple in Minneapolis, and then here. And I can tell you I think there's 10 points that I check in with every second or third day. And I would say 9 of the 10 are just saying they would be at an A. So maybe Minneapolis, St. Paul isn't at an A, and they pulled us down. But the rest of the state, I think, is doing pretty good. And the rest of the state has minimal issues. I mean, there's counties that there certainly is counties with no deaths, and there's certainly counties with hardly anybody infected.
How do they grade it? You just like that people walk around and just with a little checklist be like, oh, I don't like what I'm seeing here?
I don't know. That's baffling. Are they looking at our cell phones? Nobody's really articulated how they're identifying that. I don't know.
Right, and then you're going to grade Minnesota off of obviously you're going to grade Minneapolis because whoever is actually a news source isn't going to take time to go to the other spaces.
Ely. Nobody's going to Ely.
Of course not. They're not going to go to other spaces. They don't think like that.
Yeah, no, they don't. Well, the stats in Minnesota, I think we're at 663 deaths, which is terrible. And then I think the country is 87,385. That's the high I saw because I usually try to check 3 to 5 sites because there is some minutes.
Oh, looks like you.
Poor connection coming in here tonight.
Yeah, it looks like you froze. Let's see what's going on here.
Well,
all right, we got you back now. So what were the stats that you're going to start talking about?
Stats. Minnesota was 663 deaths, which is absolutely devastating and brutal. It'll be fun to start watching the facts and the detail as they come in. Our state has about 80% in nursing home facilities and care facilities for elderly. And I think our average age is in the 80s. So it's older population, which is certainly at risk. And they're trying to mitigate as best we can for that. I think America's at like 87,385. The best is to check multiple sites every day, about 3, because it does vary. And then I thought the stats were interesting for Florida, Texas, and California. Florida is at about 1,900 deaths compared to New York, which is about the same size, and that's 27,000 in New York. And then, of course, New Jersey and the contiguous states around there are just off the chart terribly
See,
bad. Texas is 30 million and at 1,290. Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to lifestyles of Florida and New York, those are obviously totally different factors. But what I think is more important to maybe understand how people handled different things better is actually looking at deaths within nursing homes within those different states, because that actually tells you like what protective measures were being done within the group that you knew was going to get the most impacted. So
Absolutely.
it's because
that'll be learning as we move forward. Just the nursing home issue is going to be a huge delineation point between how Florida did it, who has a huge elderly population and is about the same size as New York, and if Florida is under 2,000 deaths, and New York is over 27,000 deaths. New York, Cuomo, you can't criticize people right now, but we can point out differences that are occurring. He encouraged people, if you had COVID, the nursing homes had to accept you. So I think in the future, as they analyze that data, they're going to find out that was a huge bad choice to be sending COVID people into the nursing home setting, where DeSantis in Florida did it markedly different and had some marked different outcomes. So following the facts as we move forward is not to criticize anybody right now, because we're in the middle of a huge football game, and we'll have plenty of time to grandstand quarterback afterwards. But right now, we're following the facts.
But that was a shot at Como.
Well, no, it was we're observing during the game that something is markedly awry, and what was done differently is the process decision he made at that time. He didn't do anything intentionally bad, not at all. I would only harp on people if they intentionally did something with ill intent. So he made a decision not knowing the outcome, and I'm sure he thought it was the best decision, and it looks like at halftime it was a terrible decision, but let's wait and see. Let's not judge the stats till later.
Yeah.
I think the big emphasis I'm going to have tonight will be it's a big deal right now, and following the facts of science is a huge thing, but let's start following the facts of history, and it's also a big thing, huge thing. So there's going to be a lot of time to analyze this in the future, but as we work through it right now, who's to say what's right and wrong?
Sure.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
What do you got in California today, buddy?
I mean, everything. We lost another big retailer on my block today. So we lost Shinola. It's this pretty like top of the line retailer. They're out of Detroit, and they sell like really expensive watches and like really expensive like leather products. I always thought it was kind of an interesting store because this neighborhood tries to be bougie, but there's like a new apartment complex that is really trying to be super expensive and offer a ton of amenities, but
and to let people know, LJ's in a real unique spot in LA. He's in what's called the Art District, which is the east side of LA, not in East LA, but the east side of downtown LA, but literally within a half a mile of Skid Row. It's crazy. You're in a real unique area of LA, kind of like you were in San Francisco. When you walked out your front door of San Francisco, you walked a half mile down.
I lived in the
Tenderloin, and you're either in the financial district or in the heart of the Mission District. It was crazy.
Yeah, in San Francisco, I lived in like this little area called the Civic Center. The people around me tried to call it Soma, but it just wasn't. the marina, and then I live like right in the Tenderloin on Hyde No Farrell, which that's like pretty darn close to ground zero. It's 1 block away. But here it's weird because there's got to be something that the city's doing to really restrict people from coming out of Skid Row, because like you're saying, like I only live like kind of like 6 blocks away from it. It's a little bit weird because there's a diagonal street that kind of cuts through, but there's no overflow. It's like Skid Row exists, and then you walk a block and it's gone, and then you walk like 2 more blocks and you're in like cute neighborhoods. So I don't know how it feels as like there's like this incredible invisible fence, and it almost is like you walk through a portal to like a whole different life.
Just so people know, LJ does this by design, because his desire and passion for having the ability for a hobby almost is helping the homeless. So he always tries to be right by him.
Yeah, well, I mean, in LA, it just so happened to be like that. The arts district that I live in is a cool neighborhood. One of my friends said, like, this is where I would live. It's downtown LA just continues to kind of grow and have a lot of different like shops and fun bars, really good restaurants, and it's one of those environments that a lot of people don't frequent that often, but when they come down here, they like it quite a bit. So it's a weird spot in LA to live, but I do like it. But it's just so happens I live by Skid Row. I honestly didn't seek that out.
Directly related, like to that spot going out, is to follow the facts of unemployment right now. Like the last unemployment numbers we know is 14.7 unemployed. Depression times was, what did we look up the other day? I think it was 24.9%, which is not that far away. In 1933, that's only like 10% more unemployment, and you're almost at depression numbers. Well, they're saying right now 1 in 4 businesses will probably go out. And I would love to see if they're starting to take the stats for like LA. What percent of the businesses are going out? And then like LA, what percent unemployment do you have in reality? Are they going to hide those numbers, or are they going to have total transparency with these numbers? And we as the public, as we move forward, really have to demand transparency on all numbers related to science and all numbers as related to historically what's going on. Dig at it, and don't trust Fox and don't trust MSNBC, but watch both a little and try to dig out the numbers yourself. We got to be at the wheel now, bright-eyed and wide awake, and be aware that a lot of things taking place right in front of our eyes. Don't go into 2020 blind or eyes wide shut. You can't. You better have eyes wide open as we move forward.
It's
going to be a lot of things are happening.
It'll be interesting to see how Hollywood starts reacting to this over a prolonged period of time, because obviously, like, Hollywood is generally pretty darn liberal, and they really like to grandstand for Democrats. Like that's kind of like one of their roles, I guess, in the system. And all my friends that work in that industry, it's done. You're not going to be able to shoot a movie in Los Angeles until at least next spring. So I think...
So what do you think the unemployment is? Higher than 50%?
Oh, God, yeah.
So you can't have
I don't have
societies
many friends
with a 50% unemployment, and everybody understands this, but just to kind of review it again, if you don't have a job, you can't tax people. And if you don't tax people, you can't have a support system for your social programs to help people. Even locally here in Rochester, Minnesota, the juvenile detention center had to be closed. These guys need help. They need help. Social services need help. And if you have no dollars to go around, it gets to be wild.
Yeah.
It's a terrible, brutal thing. So the downstream effect is this. Wow, be ready, guys. Start. We've been kind of in a suspended animation rate lately because a lot of bad things are happening and happened. But at the same point, a lot of people are being paid to stay home. In reality, unemployment, you can get unemployment another $600 a week, and some people are doing better at home than they were working. Well, all that ends at the end of June, and then the rubber meets the road. Really, then we start seeing what's really going on. Unemployment's going through the ceiling. Hyperinflation's coming through the ceiling. They might not let the kids go back to school. Really?
Well,
Why?
one thing that I'm kind of confused about is from all of the projections that we were given at the beginning of like flatten the curve or else this will happen. Haven't we like really done a good job?
We've done an
Like, because I mean, it was pretty heavily pushed for a while there that we were gonna lose 2 million Americans. My memory isn't that flawed to forget that detail. Like, we were gonna lose 2 million people, and it was like, are we gonna lose like 2 million people, or are we gonna lose like 1 million people? Like, that was what we were like juggling, like, and
that's why we had to take these drastic measures, which was appropriate. Even in our little microcosm in Minnesota, we're heavily weighted in the Senate and the House for Republicans, for the Democratic with a Democratic governor, which is fine. That's great. But he, on the advice of those in charge, were being told Minnesota was going to lose 71,000 people. So of course you shut everything down. 71,000 people, and how many were you at? 663. So now when they continue to try to push things out, and even some states talking about, like Fauci saying, well, we might not be able to go back to school. Why?
yeah,
Deaths occur, but when people die in America by 100 or 200,000, people are going to die in the world by millions. So this is a big deal. This is a real deal. This is a big deal. And where some would go, well, every life counts. Don't lives in humanity count too? Why is an American life any more important than a world life? So where I'm going with that, if America works, the world survives. If America is unemployed and shut down, the world dies. It's terrible.
that's why, like, when it comes to like the masks, the 6 feet of separation, and a lot of this lockdown stuff, I'm totally on the liberal side of we all should be wearing masks. It should be a 100% acceptance rate on that, and we all should practice social distancing. And I'm totally down with like a slow reopen when it comes to like making sure that you can do it the right way, and like no big rock concerts. And I think that when you see people sitting around at bars drinking right now, I am like, okay, that's maybe you should have a mask on in that situation. I don't know. So
That's inappropriate and not reasonable. I'm right with you. You got to have social distance, you got to have masks, and you got to be reasonable and appropriate.
I'm not on the Republican side of like some people going as far as saying that this is a hoax and that the numbers are all a lie and that all of this different stuff. I'm just not there. But I am on the Republican side of we have to open this darn thing up. Like, we have to start rolling forward. And I'm really baffled that like Newsom's actually opening up California quicker than Walz is in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And so we do have we have this weird discrepancy of like what governors we think are doing this appropriately and what governors aren't. And it really seems to lie on the lines of if you have a D behind your name you've done a great job. And if you have an R behind your name, you've done a horrible job. And that's just not true. And it's just hilarious because I actually think that there's a few people on both sides where I would say have fumbled the ball. And then I would say like Trump's fumbled the ball on the economic side of this, as far as like how the money is getting into people's hands, getting in the appropriate businesses' hands. Totally fumbled the ball. Fumbled the ball on being this like kind of fifth grader who won't even keep up to his own guidelines and regulations with masks. And but at the same time, we all have to like walk out our front door. This thing's we made something that should have been a problem for a year at least be a problem that's going to be a problem for the next 5.
Probably 10. Usually it's like anybody who's got a project for school, whatever the project is, if you think you can do it in a week, triple it. It's going to take 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Could be 10 or 15. This is a real deal. And this directly related to all that too. This week we're finally seeing here hyperinflation starting to take place. Hold on, kids, and meaning all of us. I'm not saying the kids, but all of us. Start Googling and finding out about hyperinflation, because like meat and stuff, we were having trouble getting the product to the processing plant, and now there's going to be shortages. Hyperinflation could be ugly. So the assignments is start to Google hyperinflation, look at Venezuela, which it won't happen that bad. Look at African countries, which hopefully won't happen that bad. But like right now, your mom's in real estate. Right now, you can get a real estate house loan for 3%. Even in Carter's era, it was 18.5% for a mortgage. 18.5%. Okay, and that was bad times. What's happening now? What if it goes to 25%? You'll never own a house. You might have a generation that'll never own a house, never be able to pay back their debt. It's just going to be a different world totally. And that's not the world that we need to make the rest of the world where it can achieve its ultimate. And that is freedom for all, great things happening for all. We need America to survive. And you can't do it if your mortgage rates go back to 18.5 to 20% again. That's brutal. So we got to get this under control.
And it's one of those things too. If you don't have a stable economy, you won't have time or energy to fight for the different injustices that we need to overcome in this world.
Absolutely.
So like, it really is difficult, because if you can't feed yourself, you can't worry about feeding someone else. Or at least it becomes really, really difficult. So I think that the more that our economy has stabilized through the hundreds of years that it's existed so far, that's why the onion keeps on peeling itself back. And we've kind of learned that what has been swept under the rug while we were building this whole new world. And we've learned that like we swept a lot of really, really negative things under the rug to build build this country. And
however,
no. So now it's not a however. Now it's, well, we're gonna realize why things get swept under the rug when the economy sucks. When you have to only worry about yourself, it allows these other different systems to marginalize people, to silence different voices, to affect different groups negatively, because you can't have your head up when it's down, when it's trying to figure its own shit out. So I think that's why...
That's a great one. You can't have your head up when it's down. That is a great saying.
And so
we're so right.
We're all preparing to kind of put our head down to make sure that like we can get this all figured out. And I do see kind of some of the more extremist Democrats trying to settle in this position of like, well, look, we don't want your head to be down, so we're just going to start feeding you so we can do right by you. And those systems just haven't worked in the past. That there's no system as they're desiring that has proven to be that reality. So the more our economic situation gets worse, I also think that the injustices in our world will just prolong themselves from actually being addressed. So
Yeah.
I would also argue that like we have to fight for our economy, for we can fight for the marginalized voices in our society. We don't realize the unbelievable privilege that we've been able to be afforded to be able to care about things like this and to be able to understand what's been going on in history. We're getting to a situation, if we go through another depression, you don't get to sit around after work and read about all these different historical concepts to be able to wake up fresh in the morning and battle against them, because you're screwed. Everyone's screwed together.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
We have to start. Health is so important, and not to minimize that at all, but so is economic health. To make things healthy across the board, the economy healthy is hugely important. And now they're trying to pass another $3 trillion bill. You can run out of money. You literally can run out of money. And to make up for that money, hyperinflation comes, which is a real thing. So dust off the econ books, and if you weren't interested in economics before, start learning about hyperinflation, because it's coming your way real soon.
But so like with this next package, I do realize that the people in these positions are really lobbying to get their little things within this bill, right? Like we always figured out in like 6 months where it's like, oh, that got passed through this, right? And the biggest problem is I actually think this money does need to come out, because what is this, like the fifth step? This is like the fifth bill that released funds, right? Or something like that?
We're at number 4. I think we're at number 4 or 5. You could be right. But we're really, if they start peeling down into some of what this $3 trillion is this time, it's crazy. There's some items on there that just absolutely are crazy.
Do you think it'll pass the Senate?
Just passed the House tonight,
Right?
but and I think it was a little over 200 to 199, so it was close. Couple Republicans did jump over, but it'll be dead in the Senate. There's no way this is going to pass the Senate.
Yeah.
And Trump certainly is not going to approve it.
Because I do think that with the prolonged expectation of this, more money has to come out. That's the.
I think it will come out in an appropriate fashion, but not nilly-willy where everything's covered that they're asking for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just.
Whoever you're voting for, whoever your politicians are important. This is important stuff. This is a huge learning moment for life on what to do right and what to do wrong, and to have eyes wide open. This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. What do you think about? Tell me this. What do you think about Fauci's statements that we maybe shouldn't go back to having school unless the vaccines are available?
Well, I look at Fauci as that's where I'm like, I'm not all the way right on this. I don't think that Fauci has these deep, dark intentions. I don't think he's as connected to everything that the right-leaning media wishes that he was. And then
the right media really thinks he's knee-deep and over his eyes up into the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm not agreeing or fully disagreeing, but there are some great YouTubes out there. Dig at them. You see yourself what you think about them.
What about those make you believe more that he is? I'm
not saying that I believe he is. I think you have to dig at some of those yourself. That I won't even give an opinion on, because my opinion is not that important. I want people to dig at it themselves. But to think, I would say this: to think that science is pure of heart and money doesn't influence it, you're sadly mistaken. Don't think somebody, it has nothing to do with just Fauci, but universities are markedly not just purist, not just doing it for the good of mankind, but are certainly influenced by monies and to get things done. Not all of them are bad, and not all of them are right, but humans are humans is the take home. Humans are humans, and you know me. I came from medical training at Rosalind Franklin. Great example. I've talked about this before. Watson and Crick were the people who broke down the DNA double helix model and all that. That was known for years. It was proven false. Rosalind Franklin, who worked with them, was the one who now is appropriately given credit for it. That stuff still goes on, where people are saying they did something and then they're finding out 5 years, 10 years later, it's like BS. They didn't do it. They not only didn't do it, they stole the idea and markedly benefited from it. Well, even you know more about the IT than I do. Gates sometimes is thought to have Facebook and Microsoft. Was it Facebook? Those guys, wasn't there a battle at the start of Facebook where some people that maybe invented it more than you thought didn't get credit for it? Was that Facebook battle?
Yeah, but that was, I mean, that's just egos. Yeah.
Thank you. Egos and money play a huge role with humans, even in science. Great word. So don't think science is so pure and research is so pure and institutions and universities are so pure that egos and money don't play a role. Now, I don't know if it's
but I don't
a
see,
major
but
role,
the thing
but I
is,
think there are some that do.
but I don't see anything with Fauci's actions that point me to believe that he isn't speaking from his truest belief. I don't see him, I don't look at him as being a person that's being manipulated. I look at him as a person that people are asking him questions and he's answering them. And also, he's so much different than Trump in the sense that, like, he lets reporters ask him gotcha questions and he will answer them the way that he would answer them. Even though the reporter feels like they got a gotcha, it's like, no, he just answered the question. Like, do you think that we should be open right now as a scientist? Go. And he goes, no. Because you're asking me from a medical perspective based on, you're saying, I have to, he's literally looking at it as like, they're like, would more people die if people walked outside right now? And he goes, yes. And they're like, why do you say that? Because they would. And like a Trump goes, look, don't ask me that bullshit question. You are a dirty reporter. I know what you're doing here. Shut the fuck up. Right? Because he doesn't like to get walked into corners. But I actually see Fauci as being a purist, because even if a reporter thinks they have a gotcha question, if you look at it clearly, Fauci's just answering it with truth and honesty. So I still stand behind Fauci with what he says. I think it's just based on him. Now, what I think our country's doing wrong is that I also don't think Fauci's the only person that should be the decision maker on whether or not we get out. Because there's a multitude of factors. I do want him to be in that closed room. Because if I was the president, I would want a great economist. I would want a person who knows the history of pandemics in a way that I would want like the superstar historian of pandemics in there.
Which nobody's been talking about yet. No one. No media, left or right. We'll leave that alone. Check out May 13th, second half. We talked about it.
I would want a superstar historic person with the economy, and then I would want a superstar who's updated on what's going on in the current landscape of our economy. And I would, and so I would ask the economists, and they would go, "We have to get out immediately. We should have been out 4 months ago. You've already screwed us over." And Fauci would go, "I don't think we should get out for 3 months. If you want no deaths, I don't think we should leave for 3 months." But then I would ask Fauci, how could we do that in a way that would allow us to not have 100% of those deaths you're talking about? How could we have 10% of those deaths? And I would have him describe those types of scenarios. Then I would ask the economist, well, what is our most important factors to the economy? What are things that I'm maybe not thinking about that actually are like 70% of our economy that I could open up tomorrow that we could live within Fauci's restrictions? And then they together would be like, oh shit, you know what? Like, if we let these 70% of the economy out, these are actually really big businesses that have 6 feet of separation ability, who all we can get masks on, who some of them can even telecommute, and we can keep all the people at home that are going to be sick, make sure that we regulate those sick people extremely well. We fund them appropriately for they can stay at home for they don't get hurt, and I make the decision. Fauci makes his suggestion, economist makes his suggestion, president makes decision. And that's how it's supposed to be laid out. So when Republicans right now are being like, fuck you, Fauci, you're controlled by some like big pharma group, I look at it and I go, you're being crazy people right now, because he's just saying what he's supposed to do. And whatever reporters in the room, they try to like manipulate him into his corners and get out of him what they want to get out of him. And it's like, he's just going to give you honest questions. We're asking the wrong question to the wrong guy a lot of the time when it comes to this. And then we're acting like Fauci's the only decision maker in the room. That's just, I actually think it's disrespectful to the entire system. It's disrespectful to every single American. And it's also disrespectful to Fauci. Like, stop treating him like he's supposed to make a different choice than what you want him to make. He's supposed to make a medical choice. And I think we're treating him really inappropriately. Like, Republicans love him one day and hate him the next. Liberals want to literally put him up on a stake one day, and now they're praising him like he's freaking God. It's like, it's bizarre to me how we pass this guy around the dinner table, the American dinner table, and he's a guest here, he's one of us, and we treat him like absolute shit.
You're right. That's it. All points well taken.
But I don't know, that's just a rant.
All things being said, you could be wrong.
I mean, obviously, based on like the way that my brain works, I'm most likely wrong. But I call bullshit on both sides with this one.
Totally agree.
Fauci seems like a nice guy.
And we all need to sometimes call BS on both sides. There's going to be enough praise to go around for both sides, and there's enough criticism go around on both sides. Right now, as we go through the process, there's nothing wrong with asking why on some of these decisions are they being made the way they are.
Yeah, and I just have to
explain that to me.
I personally think Fauci is one of the most respectable people that I've ever seen speak on this type of podium. He seems, to me, being purely genuine at all times. And it just shows how media on both sides tries to vilify or create idols out of just normal people. And we shouldn't do that.
Spot on. It's totally agree with you on that assessment. Spot on. I agree.
So I wear a Fauci shirt. I'm Team Fauci.
You wear a Fauci shirt?
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Will you put them in your cousin's shirt? No, you got a great shirt that's Cousins. Who's on that Cousins shirt? You got to wear that one night.
Oh, for sure, yeah. You got
Who is it? You got Seinfeld, Einstein, and who's the other person?
we got Bernie Sanders, Einstein, and Larry David.
I love it. You need to throw Fauci on that. I think it would be a big seller.
I like that. That's a good call.
And then the shirt says Cousins.
Yeah. Well, the reason that is because Larry David and Bernie Sanders actually tested through 23andMe, and it came back as they are related.
Really? Who did? Larry David and who?
Bernie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, that's why they made those shirts. So, geneticapparelx.com, you can buy those.
We're Ashkenazi Jew. We might be related to both too. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah, that could be the case. That'd be good. What else is going on in California? Your sister's calling in about 5 times. I might need to pop off here at some point and see what's up.
Yeah, we can pop off here. We've gone for 40 minutes.
Yeah. What things are on the radar to start looking at that besides the vaccination? Start researching, guys, the vaccination, what % of the time it works. Start researching hyperinflation. Start researching unemployment and where's a major tipping point. And then...
I'm excited for the NFL facilities. So I think the NFL...
And NASCAR's back, baby.
Yeah, well, so I think the NFL is about ready to go to war with each state because they have given the ability for all of the training facilities to open next week. Mm-hmm. And California obviously isn't going to allow that to happen. Many states aren't going to allow it to happen, and I really believe that the NFL might kind of lead us out of this situation in a way of...
And how so?
Because they're a big giant in the room. They're a big media giant. They're a big money giant. You're gonna start to see what happens when big media and big money goes to war with state governments, and what is driving those type of different factors, right? Like, why is it that we're staying in so long outside of just trying to keep people safe? Is there anything else that could be potentially playing a role in that? I think all of those things will be revealed when the NFL kind of sticks its heels in the sand and says, like, you can't bully us. We'll see.
I think they're going to have a season, and I think we won't have fans, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if you're on an NFL field, like, there's going to be 100 people on each sideline.
And somehow they'll test their way through that. There's so much money in it, they'll test them every day.
Yeah, I don't know.
They'll take their temperature every time they come on the field. They'll test them every day, and the players will play. Now, you aren't going to have people in the stands. You're going to have piped-in music. It's going to be as odd when actors went from live theater to in front of a camera and no audience, but they piped in laughter and crying and screaming.
See,
and they'll do the same.
I think they're going to be fans. I think the NFL and Trump are going to team up to open America back up in September. And not like obviously we're opening America back up now, but I think they're going to team up to fully open America up, saying we're in full swing, because it's going to be in September, right at the end of August. The elections are going to be coming around. The NFL is going to be one of the only media groups that is willing to touch Trump. And I think that there's going to be, 16 games held on that first Sunday. They're going to fly jets over every single one of them. They're gonna start with the Star Spangled Banner. They're gonna have 50 to 100,000 people in every single stadium, and you're gonna see what happens when people finally snap and say, "We're opening this motherfucker up with or without you. Let's go." And also I could see the NFL fan being ready to do that. This is in September. This isn't like that, this is in a little while here. This is in several months. We're going to finally be at a position where everyone's going to say, we're back. Whether you like it or not. Like, they're going to just start blaming the scientists probably, as crazy as that's going to be. They're going to be like, you didn't get our vaccine quick enough. I'm going outside. I'm doing my job. And because you didn't get me a vaccine, you're going to get blamed for my death. And everyone outside is going to be sitting at bars being like, I blame you.
Mm-hmm.
You killed me.
It'll be
it's going to be bizarre.
It's going to be wild times.
Yeah.
Well, and I think by that time, a lot of history is going to come forward. And not saying coronavirus is like the flu, because it's totally different categories. Both of I had a good friend explain that, like, coronavirus and the flu is like saying both are cars, but one is a Chevy and one is like a BMW. They're two different cars within this whole virus field, but they are totally. You can say hi. We're gonna have just a walk by your sister, just like Lulu goes by live sometimes. Say hi to little sis.
What's up?
Nothing.
That's you got a rare view from your sis tonight.
Love it.
On what? Ask mom.
Love you.
So
Love ya.
there. So that was fun. Yeah, it'll be. Hang on, this is going to be just so fun to watch these video logs. I hope I'm around in 20 years to be sitting and analyzing these with you, because we certainly don't know what's going to happen. We were willing to question at the time, not accept anybody's word as gospel, and do what we were taught to do in school, and that is to think for yourself. Don't be taught what to think, but be taught how to think.
Is that what they're teaching in schools these days?
Yeah, exactly. Well, good point. That's a good point. That's right. You went through the area they taught you what to think. Okay, that's going to be a tough one. So for Avery, Reagan, and Cam out there, we're really going to emphasize, try to think for yourself. Go to both sides, left and right. Somewhere in the middle is right for you. It'll be fun to see what happens. Mm-hmm. That said, all being said, we could be wrong. And with that, the corollary to that, all being said, we could be right. That's the one you forget about something. Also, all being said, we could be right.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably a little wrong on this one. I'm still early in it. This is still, it's getting later in the evening. It's a Friday. There's going to be some things that, this is a cringy episode, I'm sure.
Hey, all I know is your mom got back after golf for the first time in about 4 years. She was the hottest putter I've seen since Tiger Woods when he was good. She holed two of them from 30 feet and another two, so 4 out of 9 right over the pin. And if the pin would have been out, because they have to be in, it would have sunk. So she'd have been 4 for 9 tonight. So Mama Bear's back, baby. And happy anniversary to Mama Bear. Our 40th on the 17th and Avery's 3rd birthday.
Congratulations. That's unbelievable. You guys all said a funny thing on your drive home. And this is just such a representation of middle America that I feel like sometimes people don't understand like what it's like to live in like a small town, and sometimes like small town comes to big city, and they don't realize that like small town criticizes small towns the same way that they criticize big cities. So you all were coming home from the golf course, right? And you went to like a normal community course, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about, hey, we're driving by like the country club, and you're like, I don't know, they changed up the sand traps. It's all white sand in there, all
true.
white.
Ours was yellow sand. There.
It's just so funny where you're like, oh, there goes the neighborhood, that darn country club. They're putting all white sand in there. Have you seen it? Have you heard of it? So
it's probably a finer grain. I'm sure it's a little. I don't know. Is that snooty?
Snooty, yeah.
That being said, they're all my buddies. I love going there. I'm not a member there, but I like going there. It's a good spot.
I just think it was just so funny. It's such a small town moment where you're just like, I don't know, the country club's putting in all white sand in their sand traps. Well, it's kind of, I don't know if that works in this town. It's like, what? It's so funny.
Well, when you drive up there, you will see it's starkly different. I don't know.
Yeah, I think does it look cool or does it look stupid?
Looks cool. Oh, it's cool. It's different.
But
you definitely know. And I'm.
But is it kind of? Is it the talk of the town?
We'll have to ask Uncle Scotty why it is better. I'm sure it's better for some reason.
But are some people kind of shaking their head at it?
Just the outsiders, because we don't know what's going on. I would think the insiders. I will follow up with that. I think there's a reason for that.
I want to know a little bit about Sandgate. Because if we're going to do a real report from the Heartland, I think the viewers need to understand what local politics sometimes is really about.
All right.
And sometimes Middle America gets so overwhelmingly exposed that like these characteristics that Middle America actually does on a daily basis, when they get exposed externally, sometimes people go, you all treat us so different. Like you treat big cities different. It's like, no, that same thing actually always goes on in little towns too.
I will bet this is absolutely the first time Sandgate's ever been mentioned, and that we'll do a deep dive on Sandgate.
Yeah. I would just like to know. I bet there's both sides. I can literally see it in my head. People driving on Salem Road just shaking their head. Just, nope, just not in this town.
The world's going to hell in a handbasket, and we're concerned about what color the sand is.
And as a person who's removed from Rochester, and I had...
Oh, you're not removed now. Once here, it's like the mob. Once you've been part of us, you don't get to escape.
No, but I'm far enough away to be able to criticize the right way. And that country club looks like shit. It looks horrible. This used to be like this super bougie spot. It's the kind of spot that like you would have like a friend that somehow like was a member there, and then you would go shoot all like your prom photos there or your senior pics, and it was like one of the most gorgeous places to exist. And going back, I went back like 6 months ago. It's unrecognizable.
Well, they had some issues with a product made by a company we won't name.
Monsanto.
Excuse me. And killed all the trees.
And, I mean, it looks horrible.
It'll look great in 40 years.
Unreal. So, I mean, yeah, if anybody has any connection to that club, for me, I don't know. Like, that's bizarre what you did. Bizarre.
They're doing the best they can. Just like all humans, we're doing the best we can.
No, don't. I mean, obviously, like, the purple politics is all about love, but, like, it's also sometimes being like, guys, what happened?
There is a group that said they should have sold the land, made it into a nice housing development, taken the 20 million plus they got in a lawsuit, gone out a few miles in the country where we have beautiful area, unbelievable. They could have carved out a brand new golf course, literally brand new one, with developed trees. It would have been unbelievable. But that would fall under what's called woulda, shoulda, coulda. And you can't keep shooting all over yourself or you're never going to get ahead in life. So the shoulda days are over. They're moving forward. That said, it might have been a negative learning experience for the city of Rochester.
Is it
because
so?
they
So
could have done it
the
differently.
problem with woulda, coulda, shoulda is there's not a shunt of. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, granted, I love the positivity in woulda, coulda, shoulda, but like, there's not a you should not have, you shouldn't have. Like,
You know what? I literally played golf with the guy. Pammy and I had a little business, Steadfast Foundations. We'd go around and give lifestyle management, and this guy spoke with us also. And he came up with the woulda, shoulda, coulda. And I will mention that he should have had a shouldn't have.
Woulda-
He actually is probably watching this at some point.
woulda, coulda, shouldn't have.
Good point. So Harlan, good job, buddy. We'll see if we can improve that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Hey, Godspeed. Thank you for another great night. What a hoot. What do you got going for the weekend? Besides calling your mom and dad on Sunday and say, how you're going to be asking your mom, how did you possibly hang with him for 40 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, it goes deeper than that because we dated for 7. Your mom wouldn't marry me. So she even tried to break up with me once. And this is a huge take home positive message for a lot of people. Pammy tried to break up with me once. She was going to go her way. I was going to go mine for college. And you know what I told her? No.
Yeah.
Takes 2 people to break up. No, we're not breaking up. So
bold move.
when somebody does that,
I'm
you
happy
kinda
you
go,
did it.
No. And then we actually knew each other 7 years before that. So we're at 54 years.
It's really good. It's awesome.
All right, buddy. And so what are you doing this weekend?
I don't know.
Are you going to go to the, last weekend you were going to go to the beach and you did that.
Yeah. Yeah, gonna go to the beach again for sure.
Okay, that'll be good.
Yeah, gotta go.
Well, here we were hoping to get down on Lake Bamber this weekend, but they got our boat on for like 2 days. The electrical went, so the boat's off. So we'll maybe be driving around the neighborhood in the golf cart and try to get your mom out on her new electronic bike.
That
So I think
sounds
that's
good.
fun. All right, buddy.
Love ya. Godspeed.
Godspeed. Faith, family, friends, football, and God bless America.